Hey royalty, what's up? Welcome back to another video. So today's video is going to be a little bit different than the typical content that I post here on Raising Queens. If you are not new here, then you already know, but if you are new, then hey girls, I typically post vlogs, mom vlogs. That is the bulk of what I post here. Up until this year, I was also doing some cleaning content like seasonal decorations and stuff like that. I won't be doing much of that moving forward. Back when I started this channel, I really wanted to be able to be an example for other single moms, but also relate to other moms and single moms. And I know that a lot of the more monumental things that have molded me into the person that I am today have actually happened prior to me having a YouTube channel. So those are not things that you would typically know about me. I really think it's important for me to share my story and to share pieces of my life as I become more comfortable with sharing my life on the internet. Just how I got here from, you know, being a typical like 18-year-old to being a mom of two within the span of what, like 3 years. Yeah, if that's something you're interested in, then definitely make sure that you stick around to watch this video. I do want to say that I have been posting more single mom content on my Instagram. I've really been trying to be consistent over there and give you guys better quality content over there as well, in addition to YouTube. So if you enjoy us here on YouTube, be sure to follow us over on Instagram. The handle will be across the screen right now, and it is always in the description box as well. So if you do go over to our Instagram, let us know you're from our YouTube channel and I will be sure to follow you guys back. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the story. Okay, so I do have everything written down in my journal just to keep me on track. I often go off on tangents, and so I'm going to try not to do that in this video. I really don't want to make it super duper long. I want to try to make it as to the point as I possibly can so that you guys can learn a little bit more about me. Hopefully I will learn a little bit more about you guys, if you guys have any similarities, if you even are a single mom, if our stories are similar, if you've gone through some of the similar things that I've gone through. So yeah, so I didn't really know where to start like my story, so I'm just gonna start with like my beginning. I was born in Oklahoma and I moved to Texas when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I've pretty much lived in Texas ever since. We've moved around different places in Texas, but the Dallas-Fort Worth area is the place that I grew up. Like that's the, you know, where I spent the bulk of my life. Obviously growing up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I went to school like a normal kid. Elementary, middle, and high school. High school is really where I guess my single motherhood journey was about to begin. I didn't get pregnant while I was in high school, but it was shortly after I graduated high school that I got pregnant with my first daughter, Mila. If you are new, she is now 5. So I cannot believe that was literally over 5 years ago, but here we are. So you know, my high school experience was pretty typical. Clubs, friends, not clubs like clubs, but you know, like school clubs. I had my friend groups and stuff like that. And I guess my story really starts when I met Mila's dad. I met Mila's dad when I was a senior in high school. I had seen him a few times when I was a junior, but he was a senior. I didn't know that at the time, nor did I know him. I just remember seeing him in the hallways. At the time, he had a girlfriend, was always walking places with her, so I would literally always see them walking places, but I didn't know who he was, nor did I, like, you know, pay him much attention. When I was a senior in high school, I was actually on a dating app called Tag at the time. I don't even know if Tag still exists or if it's a thing or if people are still on there. I was on there. I obviously should not have been. Like, what is a freaking 17-year-old doing on Tagged? Like, no clue. So I was on there and he messaged me and I immediately recognized him from, you know, that person I was always walking in the hallways and different places around campus whenever I was a junior. So conversation started there. We ended up hanging out in person and decided we wanted to be a thing, so we started dating. He was pretty much my boyfriend throughout the majority of my senior year in high school. He took me to my prom. We had a lot of not so good experiences together, which could honestly be their own story times. So if you guys end up even being interested in this video, I will for sure make story times on the different things we decided to get into when we were 17 and 18 years old. Anyway, so yeah, he was my boyfriend for the majority of my senior year. Whenever I went off to college after my senior was over, we were together for a short span of time, and then obviously, like any other teenager, we were not like feeling the long distance thing, so I ended up breaking up with him because I wanted to see other people. I wanted to, you know, just be like have fun in college. Like I wanted to be a college kid, and I couldn't do that if I had a boyfriend who lived far away, and then we weren't really communicating well with each other. So it was just too much for your average 17-year-old. Yes, I was still 17 when I was a freshman in college. I have always been like one of the younger people of the class because of when my birthday is, so that's just how life has always worked for me. But yeah, so we ended up breaking up. So many things happened in my college experience. Like literally I have endless story times that I could probably tell, and I cannot wait to tell my daughters like all of the things that I was into and doing, you know, whenever they're that age. So it's gonna be a fun time for them to learn about their mom. So anyway, I decided college was not working out for me, so I ended up moving back home with my parents. But I wasn't really living all the way with my parents. I was like crashing there from time to time, and then going to stay with my best friend because she had her own apartment. So we were like throwing parties, drinking, smoking, doing a lot of things. I ended up touching base with him again because I was back in town, and so we decided to get back together. And from there, I ended up living with my best friend, and I ended up moving in with him and his mom. We ended up living with his mom and his sisters at the time. The whole situation was just pretty like stressful. For the first part of us all living together, none of us had any jobs. Well, I won't say none of us, me nor him had a job. So it was just like, you know, we had to like figure ourselves out, and I ended up getting a job at Walmart and working and living with him and his mom. And that was the time that Mila was conceived, for sure, because I mean we had never really lived together before, and that was the most time that we ever spent together. So during that time of me living with him and his mom was when Mila was conceived. And so yeah, I ended up working at that job for maybe 3 or 4 months, and then I wanted to move back home with my parents. The dynamic of us all living together just was not working for me. I missed my family, I missed my parents. So I moved back home, which I ended up being pregnant, but at the time I didn't know that. But we were still together when I moved back home with my parents. I just didn't want to live, you know, with him and his family anymore. So we were actually hanging out one day when I decided I was kind of feeling off and weird, and I just wasn't feeling very well. I felt like I was going to pass out, so we ended up going to the emergency room, which in hindsight is literally hilarious that we decided as two broke people that me going to the ER was the best choice when I was feeling sick, yes, but it's just funny because in retrospect I'm like, the last thing I needed was another bill because we were broke AF. Like I'm talking broke. Like we were using freaking Jack in the Box receipts, like the little coupons on the bottom to get free tacos after you fill out the survey. That's what we were literally doing because we were that broke. I would preface by saying all of this was my choice. I didn't have any like hardships or a hard home life. It was just me being a rebellious teenager. For most of my life I was very good, made good grades, I was a good kid. I mean, I had my slip-ups like any normal kid, but nothing super crazy. So I was just, you know, breaking in my newly found freedom as a young adult, and my parents really couldn't tell me otherwise because I was technically grown. So they obviously, you know, wanted different things for me and wanted better for me, but everyone has to like live life and learn their own lessons. We decided to go to the ER, and when we first get there, they're asking me all these questions, and then they asked me like, could you be pregnant? And that literally had never crossed my mind. I was like, could I be pregnant? Like, I don't know. And I think I told them no. I really don't remember, but it's crazy. I still have the paperwork from the hospital from that day because that was literally the day I found out I was pregnant. So you know, they came in, they were like, okay, we're just gonna make sure you're not pregnant, just to eliminate that as one of the, you know, options. I felt like we were in the ER for forever. We were in the room. I remember being super cold. I just felt so nauseous and weak. They ended up giving me some morphine because I just was feeling horrible, which I don't even know what that's supposed to do. All I felt like it did was make me sleepy. But I was like, I had the shakes and the shivers. I was cold. I was nauseous. I just didn't feel well. After what seemed like forever, the doctor came back in and he was like, so you're pregnant. And at the time I was 9 weeks along, and I remember that day like it was yesterday. I honestly don't even think that I've told this story to anybody, but I remember like feeling like I had been hit by a truck. Like obviously we hadn't been being safe, but like as a teenager, like if you were a teen mom, like you just didn't think that that would ever happen to you. I did go to a school where I would see, you know, some kids, or not kids, but like classmates get pregnant, and I'd be like, oh my god, like that's crazy. But you know, being a teen mom is one of those things that you think will literally never happen to you until it does. That is the day that I found out that I was pregnant with Mila. So basically after we left the hospital, I ended up going back home with my parents, and I completely forgot to take my hospital bracelet off because I was feeling that sick. Got home and was heading upstairs to my room, and my mom called my name, and I really don't even remember all the details, but I think in that moment she was like, what did you go to the hospital for? And I think I had my bracelet on, and I think like she asked me like in that moment if I was pregnant, and I said yes. I think that's how it went. I know my mama gonna watch this and maybe we'll remember how exactly it went, because I really don't remember, because I just remember I did not feel good at all. But I think that's how it went. I think that's how she found out. I think. I really don't remember. I basically lived with my parents, I would say, for at least the first half of my pregnancy. And then I was still very like rebellious and really did not want to be told what to do. Me and my mom were butting heads a lot just because I was not accepting any form of direction. Like I said, I didn't want to be told what to do. I didn't want nobody saying nothing to me. I really just wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I don't even remember what we would be butting heads about. But I just know I was very like attitude-y. Obviously I had a lot of like hormones and emotions that I had never felt before, but a lot of it was also still me being like a new young adult and really just wanting to live life the way I wanted to live it. My boyfriend ended up moving out of his mom's place with one of his friends, and so he had basically said like, hey, I got my own place, you should come stay with me. And I was like, okay, because my mom is tripping over here, okay? So I ended up moving out with him and his friend, and that literally lasted maybe 2 or 3 months, and I was right back at my parents' house because I could not do it. The living conditions were just horrible. Like nobody cleaned. It was just terrible. They had cats. His friend would never like clean the cat's litter box, so it smelled like horrible. Obviously my parents, every time I have left and come back, my parents have accepted me with open arms, like good parents should do. And so I'm blessed to have the parents I have, because I know that is not the case for everybody. I ended up moving back home with my parents, and that is where I stayed the remainder of my pregnancy. I ended up having Mila on December 30th, 2015. At the time, me and her dad were not together because of, I don't even remember why we had like gone on break. Mila ended up having to go to the NICU because she was born with infection, and it was this whole ordeal, and I just felt like through that whole process he did not show up and show out for her the way that I felt like he should have. And I knew that I was sold on her the day that I laid eyes on her. Like literally the day that I first saw her, I knew I would literally put my life on the line for her if it ever came down to it. And I just did not feel like her dad was playing his part as, you know, the person who helped me make her. Like she was in the NICU for 10 days and I was up there every single day until it was time for her to come home. And during that time span, I felt like her dad was not being, you know, supportive of like the situation, of her, just of everything in general. And I also had like a lot of feelings about other things that we were going through, and it was just a lot happening. So long story short, me and her dad ended up breaking up, and we never got back together, like ever. We never even like talked, because to me that was like the biggest turn off. Who were willing to bring a child into the world but we're not willing to, like, you know, roll your sleeves up and do the hard part with me. And I knew I was in love with her. I was so in love with her that it didn't take me a long time at all to be done with him. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of where Mila's dad comes in. Yes, we have seen each other and interacted since then, but it has never been anything more than like co-parenting, which I can barely even call it that. I'm not here to bash anybody, but I do all of the heavy lifting when it comes to my kids. My parents are definitely like a part of my support system, but when it comes to who is like really bearing the weight of, you know, parenthood, it's me. Around the time that Mila was about, I would say probably 10 or 11 months old is when I met Zara's dad. At this point in time, I was still living at home, and we actually connected before I ever got pregnant with Mila at a birthday party for my best friend. He was a mutual friend of my best friend's roommate, and he ended up being there. We ended up talking, whatever. So we had seen each other before. Somehow, way down the line, he found me on Facebook, and we started talking on Messenger, and we were using like the voice feature. So we got to know each other a little bit better over like Messenger, and then we finally started hanging out in person because he ended up moving not too far from where my parents live. We hung out a few times, and then I finally let him meet Mila. And the first time that he ever met her, she like reached for him, and I was like, oh my god, that's a sign. You know, like, you know, she approves of you and your energy and all that, which was a load of crap. That was what my thinking was, which, y'all, when I tell y'all I've lived a lot of life, I have lived a lot of life. Seriously. As soon as I felt like Mila was comfortable around him, we started going to his place all the time. And my parents were not happy about it. They're like, where are you taking her? You know, who do you have her around? But again, I was grown and Mila was mine. So they could literally only tell me their opinions, and I could do what I wanted with those opinions. And at the time, I did not care. Which I know it's harsh to say, but that was the reality. I really did not care too much about what anyone else had to say. I was in love. I felt good about it. I don't even know why, because I was still very unstable at the time. I had no car. I don't think I had a real job, and neither did he. So it was just kind of like unhealthy to begin with. So I ended up dating Zara's dad. I don't even know how long, honestly, for a while, and then we decided to try to get a place together. So when I say place, you're probably thinking, oh my god, like y'all got a little apartment. No, we ended up staying in like this like suite. It was like a studio suite, and it was like over $300 a week. So even getting in it was a struggle for us. At the time, I was starting to butt heads with my parents again. I really just wanted to break free. I wanted to like start my own life. I was like, this could be it, you know, like we can make it. All of these ideas and these good plans and everything. So I ended up moving out with him. We ended up moving in together and staying in this little suite for, I don't even know how long. I want to say like maybe 5 or 6 months. And that is when I got pregnant with little Miss Zara. So obviously you move in, you start playing house with people, babies are going to happen if you are not preventing babies, and that is exactly what happened. I found out I was pregnant with Zara by a pregnancy test in our little hotel room suite thing that we were living in at the time. So Mila was freshly 1 or 1.5. Was she 1.5? No, she was like maybe 1 in a couple of months when I found out that I was pregnant with Zara, and I was literally devastated. I had this plan about how our life was gonna go. I was like, okay, we're all gonna move in together, me, Zara's dad and Mila, and we are going to like both get jobs and start hustling and saving our money. His parents have been giving us ideas of places to live and how we could save our money and get in our own apartment. And truthfully, if we had worked that plan, it probably would have worked. Would it have been the best thing for us both? No, but it would have worked. But God's plan is always gonna trump your plan, and you're not gonna understand why all the time. But honey, I am so glad that, you know, my plan fell through. When I found out I was pregnant with Zara, I was literally devastated. I did not want another baby. I didn't know how I was gonna be a mom of 2. I didn't know how we were gonna afford it. I didn't know how anything. Like, I literally didn't know what I was going to do. I remember calling my sister and crying to her on the bathroom floor with the pregnancy test, and I had taken multiple at this point because I was literally in denial. I was like, there's no freaking way. So I ended up calling my sister, just crying to her, and she was like, you know, God doesn't make mistakes. you know, he saw fit for you. She's always just so optimistic of like the worst situations, which I have always envied about my sister. But she is literally my best friend. But in those moments, I did not want to hear all that. I was like, girl, what am I going to do? I continued living with Zara's dad, and it wasn't until he ended up losing one of his jobs, because he picked up 2 jobs, especially after we found out that I was pregnant. I had the worst morning sickness that I ever experienced in my life. Like, the worst morning sickness. I'm talking constant vomiting, the shivers. I was anemic to the point of, like, it was bad. Like, I had to be eating pretty much all day, and if I didn't, I would throw up. And then if I didn't eat soon enough after I woke up, I'd throw up. But if I ate too soon, I'd throw up. So it was horrible. Like, and I had morning sickness for, I would say, at least my 1st and 2nd trimester. So it wasn't really until my 3rd trimester that I could actually enjoy my pregnancy. He ended up picking up 2 jobs. So he was working 2 jobs to pay our $300+ a week in rent for us to stay there. And then he ended up losing one of his jobs and couldn't find another one fast enough. So we ended up having to move out because we couldn't afford it anymore. And guess where I went? You guessed it, right back home to my parents. From then, I never moved back out until I moved here. We were still together whenever I moved back with my parents. Obviously, once again, my parents made room for me and my new baby. Oh, how my parents found out I was pregnant was also my sister. My sister accidentally told my mom that I was pregnant, so I didn't even get a chance to tell my mom, which low-key I wasn't that upset about. I was upset about my sister like not holding my secrets very well, but because I think she had slipped up and said something else before then. But honestly, I was kind of glad that I didn't have to break the news and the ice to my mom. I ended up moving back in with my parents, and I had Zara, and Mila became a big sister. A lot of things happened that I don't know that I would ever go into, because it's not really my story to tell, around the time that Zara was born. But it was just a very, very dark and hard time for me, that a lot of it just a lot of it has scarred me, and the way I view certain things, and the way that I like trust people that I want to be in a relationship with. It really has affected me a lot. But like I said, that's not really my story to tell. But so much was happening around the time that Zara was born. It was almost unfair for her to have to experience me for the first time the way that I was, because the situation that happened around the time that she was born is the reason why me and her dad are not together. I don't know that I will ever tell that story, because it involves other people, and I don't ever want to speak on someone else's behalf, or, you know, give someone else's business or whatever. But, you know, if the time ever does come to where everybody is okay with that being talked about, maybe I will. But it was a very, very hard and dark time for me in my life, and I honestly do not think that I would have made it out of that time in my life if it were not for like my family, especially my mom and my sister, because they were really, really there for me. I'm like literally sitting here triggering myself just thinking about it, because I don't let myself think about it, which I know is not healthy. For certain reasons, me and Zara's dad ended up breaking up, and that kind of left me a single mom of 2 living at home with my parents. So my life literally went to 0 to 100 in the time span of 3 years. I was 21, I believe, when I gave birth to Zara, and I got pregnant with Mila when I was 18 years old, I believe. So in 3 years, I went from no kids to 2 kids, and I was a single mom. Both of their dads were not around. So obviously it took a mental toll on me, and it took a lot of adjusting and growing and maturing. Either I had to grow up, or I was not going to be, you know, the best mom for my children. And growing up with the mom like what I had, I could never just be one of those moms that was okay with being subpar. And I hate to say it like that, but that is the reality for some people. Some people did not have good examples, so it's not all the way their fault. Some people didn't have a good relationship with their mom, so they don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. And me and my mom's relationship is not perfect, but I never have ever doubted that my mom loved me, and she has always showed up and showed out for me, and now for me and my kids. And so knowing that I have a mom like that, I could not let myself be consumed by my situation. It took a lot of healing and soul searching and being by myself. I was literally like single for I don't even know how long, like a long time. Like the boyfriend that I have now is my first like serious boyfriend that I had since then, and that was like what, 3 years ago. And I know that doesn't seem like a long time, but to be in your young 20s and to have to soul search on the level that I had to do in order to be a good mom to my kids is unfair, and I don't wish that upon anybody, to feel the depths of pain that I have felt, to feel the amount of sadness and just, you know, isolation that I have felt. I would never ever wish that on anyone. But like I said and will always say, my family and God held me and kept me, and, you know, made up for the times that I couldn't be whole for my kids. They made up for it, and I know that God kept bringing me back to live with my parents for a reason, because he knew that I was gonna hit a rough, oh God, I'm getting choked up. Whew. He knew that I was gonna hit a rough patch, and I was gonna need a support system, because I was not going to be able to carry the load by myself. And I think I really learned the meaning of it takes a village then, because I just remember the days that I didn't even want to get out of bed, and my sister would just come and play with the girls and bring me Taco Bell in bed and just put on movies, and I would just be so numb. I would just be so numb because of everything that I was going through. And I went through postpartum depression with Zara. I regretted having her. I regretted meeting her dad. I regretted so many things that were just completely unfair to her. But postpartum depression will do that to you. At the time, I didn't know that that's what I was experiencing. Anyway, at that point in time, like I said, I was living with my parents. I was a single mom of 2. My parents decided to move to a completely different city, and I was so elated. At the time, we were all living in a very small townhouse. Obviously, it was not my parents' plan to have all of their children living with them at that point in time, but that's what was happening. So we were all literally like cramped in this tiny townhouse. My parents moved into the house that they are now, a huge, spacious family home. And you know, I was excited for a new start. I felt like a change was coming. I felt like this was my time to shine. I didn't know how. I didn't know what was going to happen. At that point in time also was around the time that I started my YouTube channel. I had a lot of dark things happen, including the passing of my grandmother around the time that I started my YouTube channel. So really, it was an outlet for me. I didn't necessarily talk about what I was going through, but it was an outlet, and it gave me a purpose to like wake up. It gave me an agenda, because at that point in time, I wasn't working either. Anyway, I was excited for a change of pace. I was excited for new scenery. I had so many terrible memories where we were living before, and I was just really ready to get away from that and to fully heal. When we moved, I was still pretty much doing the same thing. It was just in a different place, a bigger house, so it was very exciting. And then where my life really shifted and morphed into what I live today is when I completed an IT program that allowed me to get the job that I have now, which is just, that's its own like story time, because it's just like how God works is just amazing. I ended up getting some IT certifications, which made me qualified to work an IT job. And so I landed the job that I'm in now, and with this job I have been able to move out, I vlogged all of these things happening. So if you guys want to go back that far and watch my vlogs, they are probably extremely cringy. But if you want to see that time of my life, I was vlogging when I was going to school to get the certification. I was vlogging when I was living at that house with my parents. I was vlogging me cleaning it, vlogging when Zara was literally this little chunky baby and Mila was still sucking a pacifier. Like, I was vlogging all of that. So if you guys want to see that part of our lives, those vlogs are still live on our channel for your viewing pleasure. After I graduated, I was able to get my job, and after I was working my job for maybe 5 or 6 months, not even 6 months, because I started working in March, April, May, June. So I was working my job for like 4 to 5 months, and then me and my sister moved into this apartment, and this is where I have lived. Since moving out with my sister, we lived here together for the first year, and then she ended up moving out and I stayed here, basically took on all of the bills and stuff by myself. So yeah, since living here, I have just been independent. I have gotten my own place, you know, I got my own job, and then y'all saw last year, randomly during the middle of a freaking Pandorama, I got my own car. So my road has been bumpy for sure, and it has been definitely less than perfect, but every time that I feel like a twinge of pain from a memory that I don't want to keep, I am grateful for it, because I know that had I not lived through that, I wouldn't be where I am today. I honestly would not take back a single second of a single struggle that I've ever endured. So yeah, that's pretty much my single mom story. My story is not stopping here. I have so many goals, so many dreams, so many ambitions, and I am determined to crush them, reach every goal that I have for myself. And that is the message that I would like for anybody watching this to take away. Whether you are a mom, a daughter, a son, a father, whatever you are in this life, I want you to understand that other people can be a motivation for you, but it really takes you and your determination and your grit to change your situation. And you can literally do whatever you decide you want to do. Like, there is nothing stopping you. The people that are millionaires and billionaires did not become that by happenstance. Like, they worked for it and they decided that's what they wanted for themselves. Once you decide that you want something different is when you will have something different. Once you decide you want better is when you will have something better. Leave me feedback down in the comment section. Let me know if you guys have ever been through anything similar to what I've been through. If you guys have your own stories, if you're surprised by any of it, if you, I don't know, if any of this caught you off guard or, you know, by surprise, let me know down in the comments. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in our next video.